AviationPros.com is the portal website for AMT, Airport Business, and Ground Support Worldwide magazines. Visit daily for breaking news, industry blogs, and insightful articles from our magazine's editorial team. And don't forget to sign up for our publication's daily e-newsletters. It's all at AviationPros.com.
Hello and welcome to the Aviation Pros podcast. I'm Christina Marsh, editor of Airport Business, and today I'm joined by Editorial Director Joe Petrie to talk about the 2023 Airport Business Parking Technology and Infrastructure Report. So Joe, can you tell us a little bit about this report and why it's important?
Well, the thing is, we wanted to try and get a gauge of what was going on in the industry, specifically because number one, parking is the largest driver in most cases of non-aeronautical revenue in our airports. So it's one of the most crucial aspects of operations on the land side of things and overall for the bottom line of the airports. And I think it's important for people in the world to understand what it is that we're seeing as far as how airports are investing, how they're optimizing their technology and the operations overall within their parking operations to ensure that they're getting the best bang for their buck, as it were. Technological advancements can redefine the travel journey. We all know the saying about how parking is the front door of the airport. You get the best idea of what it's going to be like. It influences how people are going to act inside the airport and how positive they're going to see your operations. So really, we wanted to make sure we were providing a good benchmark for everybody out there to understand how they're comparing versus the rest of the industry.
So based on this report, what challenges are airports seeing?
One thing that I personally found rather shocking is for how important as this is as an area of operations for an airport, how unprepared we see our airports in North America. They are not as technologically savvy as you would hope when it comes to their parking technology. For example, just some of the things we found, 60% of airports currently lack an online reservation system, which limits the convenience and offered to modern travelers, just trying to make sure that they take that stress off their plate before they show up at the airport. 65% don't provide a mobile payment option. Right there, I mean, that's something myself as a frequent flyer. Those are two things that I find personally important when I travel. And if I find it important, we know that the rest of the business traveling community and the rest of the world as a whole, it's something they're looking for. So I think it's pretty concerning that we're seeing such a gap when it comes to the parking side of things and how airports are handling the implementation overall.
Yeah, and on that note, in the age of electric vehicles, it's surprising that only half of the surveyed airports offer EV charging infrastructure. Why is that?
That's interesting. It's something where you see the early adopters who dove all in, depending on the community they're from, versus the late adopters saying that's a tomorrow problem, not a today problem. Well, early adopters are no longer early adopters when it comes to EVs. They're here. All the major manufacturers make them now. Tesla's obviously a popular option, has been for a long time, and it continues to grow. And we're seeing even more of that infrastructure being invested on the rental car side of things as well. So it's really one of those where the ones that were behind are really behind right now. So I think it's really important that they realize where they're at and how they can catch up to be able to serve this market that is the future of how people are going to get to the airport.
So, data from this report also show that the distribution of charging systems among these airports is uneven. Why is that?
That is something you've heard about in the industry, but it's really shocking to see it in person, how different it is. A lot of it comes back to the early adopters and how do you adopt? What is the charging system? What is the best solution? Where we've been on that? We see there's been some people that put in a few here and there just to kind of offer something versus those that went wild on implementation. And I think it's one of those where we're at a point right now in the industry where it's I wouldn't say a safe bet, but it's a pretty sure bet on the type of charging infrastructure you can put in an airport right now for EVs, and as we see this grow. So it's interesting to look at that to see how it is and what people have chosen to put in so far. Really, hopefully that airports can see this and use this as a guide for themselves as far as what they should be thinking about for their EV charging.
Absolutely. So, what are some of the other concerns that this report is highlighting?
One of the things I also found pretty fascinating of this is there is a high amount of airports who are not actually soliciting customer feedback when it comes to their parking operations. Now, those that contract out to a contractor, of course, they do the work for them, but there are a lot of them that we see that do a lot of their work in house, and they're not looking at that part of the equation for as important as it is. I mean, just for example, 43% of them either don't solicit customer feedback for parking operations or only collect it reactively in person. So if you get something reactive in an airport, you're only going to get the worst, or you're only going to get somebody's last decision on it. They're not going to get the full picture of the whole experience on it. So I think it's really important to see how this gap is, and when it comes down to how airports are looking at their parking management and how they're making decisions and how they tackle it going forward.
So, this report highlights a number of concerns and challenges, but how are we seeing the industry address these concerns?
Well, the plus side is there is some hope in the data. Uh, 65% of airports plan to invest in new parking infrastructure in the next 5 years. There is a recognition of the imperative need to meet the evolving demands of the contemporary traveler, and this commitment signals a positive step towards addressing the technology gap. We're in an era right now with the bipartisan infrastructure law and how it's changed airports and how they're tackling their improvement programs right now, that they are recognizing an opportunity to address these things. And if it wasn't initially on their list, it found a way that they're able to move it up a list. So I hope that this is something that people see, take a look at, and get a feel for how they're addressing or how they're thinking about their parking solutions going forward, and join the rest of those 65% that are looking at ways to improve it. Because as we know, there's something that's one thing that's always clear when it comes to airport operations. You can always find something to improve no matter what area it is. So really, I think we're going to see some big dynamic changes coming in the really near future, because it's time. And airports, it's very important for their bottom line to make sure that they're running as operationally efficient as possible.
All right, last question. Where can folks go to find this report?
You'll be able to find it on our website, AviationPros.com. It'll also be available via the Airport Business Newsletter. And if you follow us on LinkedIn, you will see a link there that'll take you to the report.
Thanks again for listening to today's podcast. Stay up to date on industry news, current issues, and information specifically for airports, airport operations, FBOs, and airport-based business by subscribing to Airport Business Daily Newsletter. And as always, please continue to visit AviationPros.com.